and welcome back to the Analog Life podcast. I'm Chris Schultz.
And I'm Ann Driscoll.
This is launch week. The book is launched. It's out. It's selling.
The trending bestseller.
Best-selling on Amazon.
It's a new bestseller in multiple categories.
Thank you to everyone out there buying Analog. You're actually buying it. You're able to buy it this week.
Now in the world.
It is out into the world. And I was saying to my friend Robert this morning that it's pretty nice to put something out and then get that feedback cycle going. I'm getting text messages and seeing people and they're like, wow, I ordered it, or I'm starting to read it, all those things, and putting
People are
something
putting
up,
reviews on Amazon.
putting reviews on
out
Amazon.
there.
Thank you for doing that. Anyway, it's out. Thank you guys very much for supporting it. And so I guess we're done here. Last podcast, we wrap it up.
That's right. Finally.
No.
Put this thing to bed.
Just kidding. We are going to continue doing this. This is the Analog Life, after all. And now it is the beginning of what's next for Analog. Anyway, and with me for an important reason today, we wanted to talk about some of the backstory about writing this book. Actually, let me start by reading you something in the book.
What is he going to read?
All right. This is the book's dedication for Anne, my partner in love and life. This book wouldn't exist without you. These ideas, this way of living, they're ours, not mine. And I think that's what I want to begin with today. Over the course of writing this book, we've both been going through a lot in our lives. And the funny thing about the book is the book in some ways encapsulates a life, my life, but a life that we kind of had to put an end to the writing of the book, even as we were continuing to live. A lot of our growth and transformation and way we live has been happening while we're writing the book. We had to kind of put a stop to things, right?
I think someone once said it's like the book before the real book.
The book before the book.
The book before the book. Yeah, you're right. Distinctively was like, you cannot put some of this material in there because you got to come to completion. I think that's one of the things that's the hardest thing about writing a book in witnessing you is like, when is the book actually done?
But I have a new idea today. Let's get it in.
Writing, because the story never ends.
So let's break it down. I think that's one of the things we wanted to talk about today. This has been 5 years. It's gone through many transformations. We don't have to go into all of the detail, but going into some detail I think is helpful. It all started with the proverbial, but also very true, in this case, shitty first draft. And it was shitty.
In so many ways.
Well, particularly shitty because of your lack of involvement. And I worked with a ghostwriter, a woman who worked with me on an outline. And it's not that her work was shitty. It's just that she helped me structure the story and the narrative. And I was telling my own story. And I think I was also beginning the process of excavating, reflecting, digging deep. Who was I going to be during this interview process and the early days of the writing? Resulted the proverbial shitty first draft. It lacked your involvement, and it lacked a well-roundedness or roundedness at all. It was pretty one note.
One note. And I would describe the note.
Entrepreneurship.
No, it wasn't that. There was digital detox in there, some things around like remember when you went through the phase where, I don't mean this to be a roast, but You went through the phase where you would read a book, like one by Cal Newport, and then you'd be like, "Oh, he's smart. I'm smart. I'm gonna put these concepts of his book into my book, and then my book will be that much better." I mean, the ultimate imposter
You
syndrome.
can't just
You were
write a
in
people, right?
Yeah, the book is so much better now that you stopped star fucking and just realize that, like, you can be the rock star of your own story.
All right, so we had the first draft.
No, we gotta stay on the first draft.
Well, okay, keep us moving because there's been a lot of drafts.
Think
Go ahead.
The other piece about the first draft was interesting because I thought we were doing this show so that we can kind of share with people as if they are thinking of embarking on their own creative project or starting to write their book.
Sure.
And so working through the memoir category, the other thing about the first draft was there's so much energy in the beginning. And so even the ghostwriter's like excited. And so when you got the book, like it was so heavy weighted that it was like pages and pages and details.
There were like 4 or 5
So
chapters, maybe more, of backstory. The
like,
biography,
I mean, there's 40 LLCs, and I swear to God, there were like 100 different LLCs covered in the
it
story.
was all in there, and
A
it
lot
definitely
of
got condensed into just one chapter.
chapters.
Well, yeah, you don't need more chapters.
Oh my
than
God.
that.
Yeah.
All right. So let's
Shitty first draft. And I do think, I will say, your memorialist, I mean, didn't ask you any tough questions. She was just like, she bought in. She was like, Cult of Schultz right there. She was like, whatever he says is genius. And I think where the next rev of the book that got so interesting is like a lot more self-reflection and like hard work.
Yeah, I think 2 things got a lot better about it immediately. One, most notably, you got involved.
He has to say that.
I think both you got involved and then you brought yourself to the book, which was, why the hell would anybody want to read this? This book has to be about something other than you. Otherwise, maybe your mom will read it, but nobody else needs to read it.
And if it's written actually for your mom, which the first draft was, then it's going to cover off on some of the spicy stories that make it so funny and fun.
You mean it will exclude them?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I got through the point where I was like, well, if I'm writing a book, I owe it to people to reveal myself. That's what makes it interesting. Any memoir, any book you've ever read, like the fun stuff is the juicy details, some insights into who that person was that you've never heard before.
I thought that was, I mean, if you want to talk about when the book started to become a really compelling piece of work, it was that moment where you changed from being like, I'm going to write a really nice book. And you started to realize, one, like my backstory, I mean, the growing up in Africa, obviously, none of us have that interesting a backstory. But like at the end of the day, you lived a wonderful middle class
Can't
upbringing.
hang your whole book
You
on
went
a
you went to
backstory.
UVA. You were in a fraternity. Got a job. I mean, these are just wonderful examples of a great life. But it's not compelling. It's not that different from anybody else's journey. And I think I saw this moment where you moved from being like, I'm just narrating the facts that happened throughout my life, and I'm starting to put my personality into it. And I think it's really easy to poke in the first draft because it is just getting it all out there. And it's the transition from I've now documented all of this to now I'm willing to actually break open my heart and start to make it personal and start to actually connect with the material and tell the stories and be okay with it. Got a lot better when, as we were reading it, it wasn't like every story was like, wow, what a huge success Chris Schultz is. Like, oh, that he did this thing and it's so amazing. And then finally it got really good when you were like, yeah, obviously there weren't a lot of successes in 40 fucking LLCs. Right? And then we started to like when you started to like uncover and unwrap the story and be okay with it not being like a perfectly whitewashed picture of, you know, the entrepreneurial journey. Like it is so much better because there's like the messy parts and the failure, like all the stories, all the lessons, all the things we always say, like have no fear of failing. And then when you see a memoir, it's like, but look at all my amazing success. that was interesting. We read that memoir, and I think that was a big inspiration for the future drafts. And it's definitely written, like, in a
Yen
kind-hearted
Wenner?
way.
Yeah,
In a kind-hearted
Jan
way.
Wenner.
It was written in a really kind-hearted way, but it was a lot of fun, and it was a good romp. There's ups and downs in the story, right? And then there gets to be the failure points and the mistakes, and you're like, "Okay, now I, like, see this person as a whole person." So I think that was really cool, like, that and maybe when in one of the later versions, Rich is, like, breaking it down, he's like, "Have you done anything right?"
Well, I mean, take stock of where we are in this exact moment. One of the interesting things that we talked about this morning was a lot of people have now bought the book. Very few people have actually read the book or gotten to some of these stories. And I know I was going to get these text messages very soon, including our family discussion at
Oh, yeah.
Thanksgiving.
Bam
You
Jam.
know, selling your company while you were on drugs? What?
Chris's mom was like, "Oh, maybe we should do a book club." And I texted the fam jam and was like, "Gonna be kinda awkward when we get to the Vegas conversations."
All right. Well,
Crickets on the fam jam.
you got to read it to hear the story, I guess.
That's right.
All right, so you got involved, the book started to get better. Let's just talk a little bit about our process. It was a grueling process, but why don't you share?
I think one signature move of Chris Schultz in general, and I've known you now for 14 or 15 years, your signature move is, "I am not gonna take any shortcuts. I'm, like, literally gonna do it myself, my way or the highway from start to finish." And so I think that is added to the grueling nature of this work. You went through the first draft, and then you completely rewrote the first draft word for word. Like, you kept the structure, but then you rewrote those things. We started working on it, and
It
I think
still wasn't
and
re
it
it was
I
getting
mean,
better.
getting better.
Truthiness in it, that was what that first layer was just some good
Yeah,
stories. I probably went way too deep on some of the stories.
yeah, and then we started to layer in the reader, and so we had a few canonical people in our lives who may or may not be real people, but we had some canonical people that we were like, "If this person were reading this, what would they actually wanna take away from this particular chapter or this book, this
That's
deep."
turned into a real book when it was like, of what value is this to anyone?
Right, and so we started to,
Yeah.
like we kind of had read through the book, and as great as it is, and as much as I love all of your work, it gets a little bit boring to keep going through these layers. There, I said it. But what we decided to do was, like, rather than get sort of like, "That chapter was fine," we went backwards so we didn't get caught up. Also, we didn't have to spend, like, the bulk of our time reading through the moments of Africa and the family and UVA and all these things, but we actually, like, got to the purpose of the book. And that was, like, a really good process. And so we worked backwards, we started to put people into perspective, and then we were like, "We could probably use a little bit of, like, good editing work." And this is, like, still 2 years ago when we brought
Mhm.
Rich in, and he's like, "I don't know what the fuck you guys are doing with this book. Who's it for? Why do I care about it? The title's terrible, and this makes 0 sense," which is Rich's process typically. And I feel like if we do another book, starting with the premise and the purpose and all those things would have probably been a good first step. But, like, you only do that when you learn have the lessons, right?
Yeah, I mean, the process, like, when for me, what I went through was first phase reflection and, like, doing, like, morning pages,
All
essentially.
this is you looking backward.
This was not liberal, just write a book. But I essentially just came in and
Copies of the book were definitely like,
sat down
"I
and
had a genius strategy, and it worked perfectly," and I was like, I feel like you kinda backed into the outcome here."
all right, so first step, reflection, every layer digging a little bit deeper, began to kind of put a little bit of a narrative thread around it. Next step, peeling the onion, opening up, getting a few layers deeper into the truth. Then what does this
Like
actually
distilling the what is it?
mean? Why are you writing this? Why would anybody possibly want to read this book with a reader focus? That's critical, right? A reader
Yeah.
focus. We went through it entirely with a reader focus. And then last step was with Rich, which is, why would anybody ever pick this up? You're walking through an airport and you walk by a bookstore and you've never heard of any of the books on the shelves. Why would anybody ever pick this up? So I know he still doesn't like the title, even though I stuck on the
Oh,
title
whatever. That
analog.
title
Was meant to be, and then the back cover, and he wrote the back cover based on that, about what we wanted to write the book about. And I am saying we, because it was both of us at this point. And then he went back and, with a fucking genius scalpel, left it in my words,
Oh, yeah.
the promise of the back cover and the introduction.
And when we
All of a
left
sudden it started to come together
but when we
in his
left that
hands.
workshop, I was not sure.
I thought we might have to just throw it all away.
No, I knew we wouldn't throw it away. It was good enough, we could have gone for it, but I thought he was either gonna rewrite the whole thing. I didn't know what was gonna happen, and wow, that was a big Christmas gift last year to receive it back, because it was all your work. It was
Yeah.
all the words. It was you. And I remember he tasked us with the job of, he was like, pick it up and read it as if you just picked it up and you're in like an Airbnb and you picked up this book. And I was like, we did. And we read it through, probably in the hot tub and Toto's. And it was good.
Yeah.
It was really fun. It was like a fun romp. And by taking ourselves, like taking the ownership away from it, it like kind of gave us a fun way to look at it. And wow, that felt really good.
That did feel good.
And it's surprising how long it takes to
Yeah, I
go
can't
from
believe it
that
was.
moment to like launch, and not even like launch with a publisher or any of those things. Like we still, of course, like did it ourselves, went through all the steps, serial processed our way through. We're here and it feels great, but it is a true labor.
Yeah. It's been a labor of love,
It
and I
has.
thank you
Thanks.
for your support and your strategy.
I think you. I think one of the hardest parts about work, we work together all the time and we've brought a lot of things to life together and we've collaborated on almost everything that we do. And I would say that the hard thing about that for me was knowing how important it was to give you the space to make this your thing. And so while we were going through like that first phase, like I had to manage my ego, I had to manage like frustration, I had to manage just allowing you that ability to do it. And then I think it was like probably through Kevin afterwards, you could have easily just like made this 100% your project, maybe gotten some interviews with me to understand some nuances, but you did ultimately make space for me to play a role in it. And I think that was a good example of collaboration where it was like still ends up being all yours, but you created enough space that I could participate in it and we could bring our life and our philosophy into the book,
It always needs a little dash of amp.
but just a little.
All right. Well, I'm so grateful for your support and help, and your
Let me ask
role
you a
in this.
question.
Yeah.
Thank you for what was the hardest part of writing the book?
Well, I actually got sick of the book,
Yeah.
like really sick of it, on the second or third, maybe the third revision before Rich's involvement. And then after Rich started editing with the scalpel, it was like, oh, there's a book in here hiding. The hardest part was getting through, okay, another week, we're going to edit a chapter, and sitting down and typing out in the Google Docs, like, here's what I want to say. Here are the words I want to say in this chapter. week after week. And I would do that for weeks at a time, and then we would sometimes put the book down for 6 months. So it's
Yeah.
not like it's been 5 years of doing that. But those were the hardest times.
What's funny is I think those gaps were part of the challenge. And so, like, if you were to say, when we write the next book together, what I would say is it was so hard because you would take a break for 6 months.
Yeah.
And then life had changed and things had happened and you had evolved. And so then you were like, wait, I'm sort of like leapfrogging ahead. My life is leapfrogging ahead of this book that I'm writing. How do I incorporate those like leapfrog moments into this book while at the same time staying true to just getting it done?
That was the
Congrats to
hardest
that.
part, and this is the best part. Launch week, we made it. It feels great, and I really appreciate everybody out there who is part of this community and along for this journey. We're going to keep it up.
Yeah.
We'll have another.
Rising bestseller.
All right. That feels
Bestseller
pretty good.
in specific categories on Amazon.
Bestseller in specific categories. Take it.
Top 50 in memoirs. Like,
Actually pretty good.
by today, I bet you're top 50.
All right, folks. Thanks for joining us this week. We will be back next week with more. And can't wait to see you guys out there in person celebrating at any and all analog book events. And thanks for being part of the community.
You bet.
All right, folks. So long.